we've never been in a better spot, honestly. The L2 thesis is crumbling. Everything has turned out to be a meme, and none of it's really worth anything. This shit's really fucking hard. And there's such little institutional knowledge built up in crypto between individuals. Like how many people know how to launch an L1? This is going to be the greatest onboarding event in the history of crypto.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the DeFi Podcast. Today we have JF, Jared, and myself, and we're joined by Stephen Gates from GoGoPool's. Stephen, how are you doing today, buddy?
Doing well. It's good to see all my favorite people again. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, JF was just saying that he only really recently realized that your name is a combination of both Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, which is just it's a great name. It sounds like a made-up name.
I'm only half Epstein Island.
Oh, God. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us. You know, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, and you're knee deep in what's going on with behind the scenes in Avalanche as the CEO of GoGoPool. One important disclaimer: I believe all three of us, Jared, JF, and I, are investors in or employees of GoGoPool. So just get that out of the way. Nothing we say here is financial advice. We're all very biased, huge fans of both the protocol that you founded and you individually. But thank you for making the time to chat with us, and we'd love to talk to you a little bit about what you're seeing behind the scenes, what you're working on, how Avalanche is positioned, all of those things. So, what has been kind of keeping you busy over the last few months? What's going on with GoGoPool right now?
So what's been keeping me busy is in December, AVAX 9000 shipped, the Avalanche E Etna upgrade shipped. With that, we started off with the Beam node sale that did $75 million. And then we did Cocknet as an infrastructure case study and onboarded like 1,200 validators in a couple hours. So with these two kind of milestones, we have gotten an onslaught of L1 requests of all sorts of teams that are crypto native. Anyone that's, you can ask about anything, by the way.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. So, dude, there's a lot there already. So first, okay. So the Beam node sale, I've seen some, stuff being posted on Twitter about this node sale. But what exactly is happening there? When you say node sale for $70 million, like what's actually happening behind the scenes? And did these guys already launch their L1? Like what's going on there?
So Beam used to be Merit Circle. Merit Circle rebranded to Beam. Beam has been a POA Avalanche subnet. And then now
POA meaning it's a proof of authority subnet where they have to decide who the validators are ahead of time, right? Okay.
Yeah, they had like 5 or 8 nodes or whatever. And then with the Avalanche E upgrade, they finally saw the opportunity, like, great, we can now convert to a proof of stake chain. How do we do that? We introduced kind of a node sale meta with them and work with them on strategy for it. And then they executed on a node sale. And then now they sold out these NFT validator licenses that users can purchase and stake in the form of either validation or delegation. And then, let's see, that was December, the financial event happened. Info started getting created and getting audited January and February. And then now everything is live. So now you can go to Beam and plug the provider and stake your node licenses and start earning some APY. And then now I think they're starting to release information about how the value incentives work and all this type of stuff. So
it's now become a permissionless L1. It was a proof of authority subnet. Now it's a permissionless one.
Yep.
Not subnet, sorry, L1.
Do you have any comments on the raise? Like, this is sort of a big number. What does that number mean? Is that number real? Is this going to be something we're going to see all the time? Like, what's your sort of takeaway from the size of that raise and the way it was done?
Number's real. Mark, the founder, is a fucking beast. Like he's was fucking amazing to work with. Like he is an actual fucking beast. Like when we were first talking about it, I was like, okay, this is pretty ambitious. Like, let's see, we'll help out where we can. Like, let's go. And then within like 30 days of prep work, I was like, oh shit, this guy's a fucking beast, man. Then we just threw the bag at him. Like, all right, now anything you need, like, just let us know and let's fucking go. So I mean, will it happen all the time? I think it's extremely founder dependent. Like, I mean, node sales are it's hand-to-hand combat at some shape or form. Like $76 million doesn't show up out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So I think it really depends on the quality of this team.
Oh, got it. Okay. And you mentioned something else besides Beam. What was the thing that you mentioned after Beam? Cocknet. Right. Okay. So Cocknet, for someone who's listening who maybe doesn't know Cocknet, like Cock was a COQ. Cock was a meme coin that launched on Avalanche maybe a year and a half ago or something like that. It's probably the biggest meme on Avalanche aside from Ket, which launched recently. It has this huge community. It kind of grew out of this this NFT. What was it? There was an NFT platform called
Chicken.
What was it? Oh, Chicken, right. Which if you went to the Avalanche conference, those guys were crazy. It's all over the place. Huge presence at the Avalanche conference. But they have a very strong community. Okay, so they hooked up with you guys, and they have a new L1 called Cocknet, and you can launch your own permissionless validator using GoGoPool. It's very easy, but that's all I know about it. Is there anything else going on with it?
Cocknet L1 is actually another team inside the Cock community. And then we already knew we wanted to do a Cocknet L1. This team was like, hey, we need an L1 and we love Cock. Can we like work with you on Cocknet L1? Right? And then we're like, all right, let's fucking go. And what we wanted to, so they have their own L1 roadmap and their own vision, and they're just going to start deploying dApps on it and they start for the community. And I saw the demo for the first dApp. It's actually pretty fucking slick. Like the onboarding process to this meme coin casino type of play, like it's pretty fucking slick. Like your network wallet never leaves the seed chain. You get to on-ramp your assets and use this warp messaging under the hood, but the user literally doesn't know. It's like as if everything was just on the seed chain. Like it's pretty cool. And it's like a little slot machine. So they're starting to push out dApps and onboard more dApps and start creating and build a community and like make Cocknet L1 into kind of the cultural epicenter of Avalanche L1s, and they want to start becoming interoperable and start inviting in the other meme coin communities around crypto. For us, like our piece of the partnership was to deliver on the infrastructure to help it go proof of stake as well. So same as being like be able to go from a POA subnet into an Avalanche E enabled proof of stake L1 or permissionless L1. And we created a one-click validator node launcher so that users could come, sign one transaction, click one button, and then it spins up a validator node, an L1 only validator node for the Cocknet L1. And we want to do this at scale as well. So we onboarded 1,300 validators in total. The last batch, I believe, was 1,100 validators. Jerry can fact check me. But we worked across like 40 node operators, and then we got everything onboarded in a fully decentralized proof of stake L1. Everyone's experience was one click. And it happened in like 3 hours of scaling, which is pretty incredible. So now technology exists to take any L1 that launches and have them be able to choose how decentralized do I want to be out of the box. And once I'm at that level of decentralization, how do I want to improve it further? And how do I use, and now what's keeping me busy is now we're creating all sorts of, we're creating a financialization layer on top of all of this. So the vision is great. Now we have we proved out that L1s are valuable. They're in fact very valuable. They're like very, very profitable. And Beam is the case study on that. And then we built all the great, and this is just our style as entrepreneurs, right? Other people may be doing it differently, but for us, it's always first, what's the opportunity size? Let's prove that economically. And then the next step is great. Now let's build some actually good infrastructure that is like super, super stable and robust and can scale out to match the opportunity size that we're looking at. That's what Cocknet proved for us. And then now we're working on, okay, now how do we capture the full opportunity? Because I think we live in a world where blockchain, and especially these purpose-built L1s, can literally redefine how businesses get created, grow, and run. Like capital formation for all these small AI-enabled tech startups in Silicon Valley. Like imagine now with AI, they're able to build bigger, better things much faster with way smaller teams. So now you have way more teams attacking different problems. And then you give them all their own blockchain to be the financial backend for their startup. And they get to issue a token and generate fees and buy back their token and keep redistributing as incentives. Like suddenly you're looking at a very, very different world. And that's the world we're building for. So Beam was the first thing to like showcase the economic opportunity. Cocknet was the case study around the actual infrastructure. Like, can we actually do this? And now we're starting to create this hyper financialization layer on top of it.
I think so GoGoPool is a really interesting project. I think in the blockchain space, on Avalanche specifically, but like in the, kind of a greater presence in the blockchain space, at least for me. I think for two reasons. And the first one, I mean, GoGoPool's got an awesome team. So really, I think obviously biased. I used to be on the team, but really top team, moving really fast, building correctly, so on and so on. But also just really at the frontier of this L1 thesis, which I think is like a really undervalued thesis in the blockchain space. So just maybe setting up the stage so you sort of gave us like what's happened up to now. I'm sort of curious, like you're sort of always like the go-to guy. You might be tired of this because I feel like you have more information than almost anyone else on like what's coming. So just have to keep asking that same sort of like question, what's coming?
What's coming and with what perspective?
In the L1 space, like, what's the volume? What have you learned? Like, what are you looking at right now that the rest of the market doesn't know yet?
So it's really, really interesting. We've never been in a better spot, honestly. So the trends that are happening right now in crypto are that the L2 thesis is crumbling. Everything has turned out to be a meme and none of it's really worth anything. Like I just saw this great tweet from Luigi this morning. It was like, like L1s are worth 10x more than the top 10 L2s, right? Like, okay. So the L2 thesis is crumbling. ETH has stagnated. Now, even the most hardcore VCs and liquid funds are starting to be like, wait, this probably isn't the play. So they're starting to come around now, where 6 months ago, the cracks were beginning to show. 12 months ago, it was still a religious war. Now I'm getting hit up by investors and liquid funds of like, hey, what is this L1 unit? How's it different than an L2? Right? So that's the first trend that's happening, is all of crypto. It's like really interesting as an entrepreneur being in a market over a long period of time. One lesson you learn that you only really learn by having skin in the game over a long period of time, being in the game, is like the market does tend to hallucinate about different things. Like AI agents was another hallucination, totally overvalued, nice little bubble, but it's like still, like it pops and then now there's a reset, whatever. But L2s is another big hallucination. And that hallucination lasted 2.5 years because it's in front. It's slower to see the full picture. But now we see the full picture. That's the first trend, is that the L2 hallucination is finally coming to a close. Second trend, Solana has created such a huge install base and popularized crypto in a way that no other chain has, such that world governments want to launch coins and copy Trump. Every single launch, terrible rug, everyone got burned. All of these buddies, the people who launch these coins, are like, oh shit, well, I still want to launch something in crypto, but Solana is not the right way to do it. So how do I do it? So now there's this big kind of a microscope is on crypto right now, where all these different political organizations are trying to figure out, how do I get into crypto game? Because there are a couple value drivers of crypto that are extremely important for them. That's they're not just going to pass it up because the Libra coin did terrible. They're like, no, there's still a lot of juice in crypto. Like, we want to get into the game. So now we're getting hit up by super PACs. And I was introduced to a couple of super PACs where they're trying to understand, like, okay, can I put a piece of my game on chain so I can use stable coins to accept donations? It's like, okay, fucking great, let's go. And then third trend is now builders are also burnt out on meme coin mania. They're burnt out on the L2 stuff. They know that like when the Monad launch happens, it's gonna be a nice pop, and then it's gonna fucking, like, let's see. So now builders as well are like, well, do I want to build on someone else's property or do I want to control my own destiny? That's the third trend. Now with the mix, fourth trend is that all the investments, all the VC investments that happened between 2021 and 2024, all of them are starting to hit their stride, and the people who found product market fit has now found PMF and across verticals like gaming, deep, and AI, the ones that I kind of spend most of my time on. And now all of them are starting to realize, oh shit, there's this big app migration happening. Uniswap did a Unichain. Kraken made their own L2, their own chain. Like Aave is talking about launching their own chain. So now all these really great Web2 founders to crypto native money, all these builders like, okay, well, what should I do? Like, I don't give a fuck about Ethereum. I don't even hold any of these. Like, I hold Bitcoin, right? Like, so they love
Ethereum, but it's not their job to pump Ethereum, right? So like, they're going to pick the best tech stack for that, right?
Bro, I'll say right now, they don't care about Ethereum. Like, they don't give a shit, dude. Like, you think the Gunzilla founder cares about Ethereum? Like, they don't give a shit.
I mean, It's not gonna help them accomplish their goals. Yeah.
Look. So that it can help them, but it doesn't, and it can't. So they're like, okay, well, what do I do? So they're rolling out my own chain. That's the fourth trend. They're like, okay, well, what if I launch my own chain? All the other big boys in crypto seem to be doing this. Like, I've raised $20 million. Maybe I should probably go straight to this as well. So like, everything is kind of coming together. In Q1, I started noticing all these threads starting to come together. Q2, I think, shit starts getting commercialized. So that's what's coming.
One of the other big things I think that's happening with L1s is that you get to keep most of the value that you create. Whereas if you're creating an L2 or you're launching on an L2, right? Like, Ethereum is just going to sap some of that value because, Arbitrum is not using the Arbitrum token for gas transactions. It doesn't, you don't need to own the Arbitrum token to be a successful project on Arbitrum. So, what is the incentive or the value prop of the Arbitrum token other than, we're gonna monetize our, centralized sequencer or something along those lines, right? Like, Ethereum is essentially the big value vampire of a lot of these different L2s and the projects that are launching on these L2s as well. Whereas you launch your own L1, you don't need all these different services.
There's no value leakage. It's simpler operationally and engineering wise as well. Like, it makes a lot of sense. You can scale it up, scale it down as much as you want. Elastic Cloud feel if you want it to be. It makes a lot of sense. What were you trying to talk about? What were you trying to say, Bill? We cut you off.
No, it's okay. No, it's perfect. Look, dude, so like, there's a lot. Okay. Basically, Avalanche and GoGoPool is at a really good spot for a number of reasons, right? There's a bunch of projects, like you guys say, that want to become their own app chains. And, like, becoming an L1, like, for example, Hyperliquid launched. It's a very successful DEX. And they kind of made the mindset shift of like, hey, we're not just a DEX, we're actually also our own L1, right? So that's when they had the airdrop, and usually when an airdrop comes out, especially a massive one, it goes straight down, right? Hyperliquid went the other way, just went straight up. Why? Because they rebranded themselves. This guy Flood and all the other influencers on X, they really pushed this message that Hyperliquid is not just a DEX, it's its own L1. So it made everyone rethink, okay, the valuation of this thing could actually be much higher. It's its own chain, and it actually has real economic activity. The valuation should be much higher. So it kind of pushed, it's back down now, but it pushed it like into the 30 billion range, right? So I think a lot of founders have to be looking at that and thinking, if I actually have real economic activity happening and I move to my own chain, all of a sudden the valuation, like the comparisons are like, hey, this valuation should be like in the billions, right? Before, whether we believe it sticks there for years or not. So okay. But the issue with something like Hyperliquid is very centralized, right? Like, I don't know if you guys saw the chatter that happened over the last week. I was on vacation, but I was trying to follow a little bit.
Do people think that they're decentralized though?
No, this is what happened over the course of the last week, right? So like,
or I guess I should frame that as, have people ever thought it was decentralized? Like, is that actually?
It's its own chain that had 4 validators that was in some centralized location. They have a plan to make it more decentralized. But I don't know if you guys saw what happened in the past week, that basically some attacker, shorted, I think it was Jelly, and it was like a low market cap thing. And essentially, basically, they caused they bought a bunch of it up spot and caused a bunch of bad debt. And then Hyperliquid validators voted to. I don't know I don't know. Yeah, They're just playing game. I don't know what to call them, but what they did prove was that Hyperliquid is not really decentralized. So now, okay, people are looking at this, right? Aave and other people who are like wanting to launch their chain, anyone who wants to launch their own chain, and they're like, Hyperliquid got a insanely high valuation, in part because they have an awesome product. People use it. I mean, it is an awesome product. I mean, I've used it. It's awesome, right? But then their own chain, okay, that's also great. Let's launch our own chain, but it wasn't decentralized. So how do we make ourselves our own chain once we get economic activity and like actually be decentralized? Where do we go? Like, how do we do that? L2s are not the answer, right? What is it? Is it Cosmos SDK? You can use Cosmos SDK to launch your own chain. A lot of people have done that, but it has a bunch of issues. The validator set doesn't scale after 100. And
no, but you're right. Avalanche is the only infrastructure, the only
Avalanche is
that can handle high scale economic activity. Absolutely.
Yeah, and dude, we had this guy on from Tesseract. The founder of YieldYak, Dylan, who goes by what's his handle on X? I forgot. Anyway, he showed us exactly. Yeah. He showed us exactly what you're talking about, Stephen, which is like when you're talking about Cocknet, like moving assets from the C chain to Cocknet, doing things there, moving it back. And like from the user's point of view.
That was more than that. It was take your asset on Cocknet and be able to borrow AVAX against it. Or like take your AVAX that lives on Cocknet and be able to, quote, swap it to USDC, swap being powered by the Aave instance on the C chain. I'm older than you guys. Like, seeing cock memes and stuff, like it kind of makes me shake my head a little bit. Like, dude, I'm like, what am I doing with my life? But at the same time, like, they're showcasing. Yeah, you're not low cock.
Wait, I bet you you're hoarding more cock here than anyone else on this pod.
I'm sure. I bet you got way more confidence.
So for you to criticize seems,
yeah.
It's just
bad taste.
Continue, please.
All right. Okay. It's one thing it is showcasing is that we had this guy who did, who did Tesseract. Sorry, Rhett is calling me. He's mad that I bumped him off the pod.
I'm gonna come in.
Yeah, no. The thing that Tesseract did that was awesome was it showed that, this moving assets from the C chain to another chain and moving it back is just so seamless. It reminded me of 2021 when Avalanche first launched. And when Avalanche first launched, you could do transactions in a second, and on Ethereum it was taking forever. It was like, oh my God, this is a huge leap forward. And that's exactly how it feels with Tesseract right now. And it sounds like this is exactly the same thing people are experiencing with Cocknet if you're moving assets back and forth from the C chain. And you're doing it in a way that's much more decentralized than a Hyperliquid, right? So to me, that's the really exciting part. I mean, we just need to push that message out so people can see that. I mean, maybe it's already happening. I don't know. I've kind of been a little bit disconnected recently. But if the BD push in the Avalanche community can kind of get anyone who's considering an app chain to do something like Cocknet, but for a Hyperliquid, I don't know. That could be a really exciting 2025.
So you mean like a Perps L1?
Yeah, like a Perps L1 where there's genuine economic activity, with a lot of flows.
Yep.
Sorry, dude. It's just Rhett is messaging me because I bumped him and now he's mad at me because he wanted to talk to Steven. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, cool.
Yeah, right now.
He wants to talk to Steven.
Yeah.
Can we just add him right now?
What's that? Say it again.
Can we just add him in right now?
No, it's okay. No. Four is a good number for the pod. We'll keep him out. Unbox him out.
Sorry, bro.
Okay, cool. So you said you've been looking at DePIN, gaming, and one other type of thing that's
AI.
Oh, AI. Okay. So if you look at the rest of 2025, is there any current blocker for people launching their L1s, or you think people are Avalanche 9000 came out not too long ago. So are people building right now? What's the sense you get from the people that you talk to behind the scenes?
Yeah, I don't think there are any. I don't think there are any more hardcore blockers. It's more that launching any token is really hard, and when you take on VC money and there's an economic expectation and your product market fit, and then now you're trying to add in a token to that, that's just overall in crypto. That's just hard, right? The L1 side, you gotta consider two new things: validator economics and then kind of like your decentralization positioning strategy. But other than that, like it's starting to look like any other token launch, which is part of what's so fucking exciting, right? It's like you saw what happens with virtuals. They did a great job abstracting away all the different like nitty gritty details about having an agent interact on chain, and then they was able to distill that down to just their SDK. So I think we're getting to the same point. And then for virtuals, the result was, okay, they had a humongous run on AI agents. Now it turns out these AI agents don't sustain economic activity, and it was a reskinned meme coin. But I think like that's what I think. I think the overall prize is taking AVAX to be top 3. And I think how we get there is by launching these massive L1s who already have significant economic activity happening. And now they're using an L1 to be the financial backend to their actual businesses and products and protocols and what they're building. And then you abstract away all the hard shit. And so far, that's what we've been plugging away at, abstract away all the hard shit of launching an L1 across all dimensions, not even just like the code. There's this whole other little service layer and another DeFi layer around it that needs to help support and reinforce L1 launches. But like I think that's where we're going. So I don't think there's any more hardcore technical blockers. Now it's more just for any team in crypto, launching a token's hard because even the best founders launch a token like once, you know?
So that's one of the things I did want to kind of bring up. Now, I don't want it to sound like too much of a softball question, which it may be, but
great.
Okay, so it's kind of hard for people to know outside who are just sort of passively watching, projects come up, new things are, abounding all over the place. When you say that we are, abstracting away some of the hard things, I think it's important for people to know how hard those things actually are and how much of an unlock it is for the projects who previously were looking at launching an L1 and had no idea where to start versus like how much of a jump ahead or like a jump start they're getting from being able to, let's say, launch a blockchain, in a few minutes, right? Or get matched with a validator set without having to go out and do like a road show or you name it. I'm sure you have a number of ideas, but yeah.
Yeah. Was that a question? You prefaced that as a question, but it was more like a statement.
Well, my question is like, how much further, like, let's say we're talking about, you're a project you want to launch at step 1 and getting a fully, online decentralized chain that is basically running on Avalanche is like step 10. How many steps in that process are we actually removing from them? I feel like it's a lot.
So the comps are something like a monad. How long is it taken for them to launch? How long did it take for Bearchain to launch? And then when you talk to those teams, why delay for 2 years? Why testnet delay for so long? For them, like it's nuanced, and this isn't a slam on them. It's not a dig on them at all. It's fucking hard. This shit's really fucking hard. And there's such little institutional knowledge built up in crypto between individuals. Like how many people know how to launch an L1? I would say on this call, one person does. That's me. And I only have that because I see every L1 and like from the very first step to the very last step. And then you look across all of crypto, like, okay, how many people know how to launch an L1? Say the Avalanche guys have some, maybe like each individual Cosmos founder knows, you know what I mean? There's 50 people in crypto?
It takes a lot of technical expertise. Yeah, Hyperliquid had to spend they're supposed to be technical wizards, right? And it took them a lot. It took time, right?
Yeah, it's tough. It's really, really hard. So on average, I think we ran the calculation somewhat last year. Something like it takes 18 months to launch an L1. Expected budget is like a $1.7 to $2.5 million just to get the L1 off the ground. And then if you then add the cost of a token launch on top of that, so then depending on how much you bend over for Binance, that's anywhere between 0% of token supply to like 10% of your token supply plus $100,000 to $5 million for listing fees. And then add on marketing costs on top of that. So it's probably like it's probably 6 months overall of wartime marketing. It's probably between 30 and 100K a month of marketing. So all in to launch an L1, you're looking at what, like $6 million or so, plus like your staffing cost and your engineering cost, and then everyone's trying to figure it out. And you know what I mean? So yeah, you're probably looking at like $6 million for like a good L1 launch, and then year and a half, maybe 2. And during that process, you're also probably fundraising. Like the common playbook is wartime marketing, build up a lot of community stats, do a fundraise. Now you go a little more quiet, another wartime marketing, launch an incentivized testnet, build up more stats, do another fundraise, go quiet again. And then you start one more push of wartime marketing. You announce your sex listings, you announce any acquisitions that you do, and then TG is imminent. Right. So it's an orchestra, that's for sure. On Avalanche, I think the types of builders coming here are just different than the general purpose EVM monad types. Like the people here are way more like incredible, like tenured Web2 founders who took crypto native money or crypto VC money. And then now they're trying to use blockchain to augment their business and get a differentiation in the market to tackle their incumbents. So applying blockchain to real use cases.
Oh, interesting. This is upcoming teams, because I can't, when you say that, I mean, you are obviously a previously very successful Web2 founder who came to Web3.
These are the only teams I talked to. I would say across 115 L1 teams, I think, that we're like always touching and like working with and supporting. I would say 70% of them, if they've raised at least $2.5 million, I would say the number goes higher. So maybe like if they've raised at least $2.5 million, I would say it's like 90% of the founders are like their background are really good Web2 founders. Like they're not like DeFi natives who got into crypto from DeFi summer, who then start spinning off and doing things. You know what I mean? Like these are like, they have some background in telecoms, and then now they're doing a DePIN startup. You know what I mean? It's a very unique builder persona that actually, I was just talking to a liquid fund who, we're making moves and doing stuff. But so I had this liquid fund meet a lot of the pipeline, and he's like, Steven, this is like he's also really, really deep in Solana. He says that, Steven, like you are the only person who sends me real shit. Like every single thing else that I see just getting sent to my desk or like meeting founders, whatever, it's like some meme coin NFT community that's got a DeFi layer that has some weird branding to it. You know what I mean? Like very crypto native type of stuff. He's like, from Avalanche, this is the only place I see like the highest density of real builders building things.
So high signal, low noise.
Yeah. Higher signal, lower noise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any chance you came to is there kind of an outside shot here, Steven, but any chance you came to the Digital Asset Summit last week in New York?
I didn't. Aaron was there. He was my boots on the ground, but I was not.
Okay, because the language that you're using about kind of taking like real world use cases or companies that are actually doing something and then putting a portion of what they do on the blockchain kind of reminds me of this Santiago's company. Basically, he's starting this thing called Inversion.
We have the same thesis, man. When I first met him, we talked about this stuff. I was like, oh shit, it was like giving me the pitch, and I was like, oh, this is like literally my pitch, except he's approaching from a different perspective, right? He has like his angle and his perspective on it, which is great. But yeah, I was like, oh shit, this is my fucking, this is my homie over here, brother from another mother.
Interesting. So I don't mean to put you on the spot, but is there any chance you're talking to him about Inversion? Because this seems like the perfect, he's basically like, look, I mean, from what I've heard, and I want to dive into it a little bit more, he's like, look, there's all these companies out there who could benefit by putting some portion of their business on the blockchain, but they don't really care about the blockchain, right? Like they're only going to do it if it makes sense for them. So he's like, going to try to put some of that stuff on chain. I'm not sure if he wants to have that expertise in-house or he's going to outsource it, like to someone like GoGoPool or anything like, I don't know. Have you chatted with him at all?
I haven't talked to him recently, actually. I should catch up.
I mean, he says he's going to launch his own L1, right? So I'd be curious to see, is he going to do it all by himself? Is he going to, try to decentralize it from the beginning through something like GoGoPool, or how's that going to work? I think it'd be a good comment. Yeah. Roger that. Fair enough.
So, okay, super exciting future for Avalanche. It sounds like it's finally sort of coming together. I'm hearing all the things I want to hear off this call. I'm curious. So when I was at GoGoPool, we worked a lot on what's the next version of GoGoPool and how does that, fit into this market? What does that, I know it's still being sort of reworked a little bit and it's not final, but like, what can you give us on that?
So GoGoPool has always been this DeFi layer with the vision of making an ecosystem of L1s and reinforcing the economic activity of these L1s, like creating a really healthy, robust network of L1s. So pre-Avalanche E upgrade, the way we're pushing that is, okay, we're going to start a liquid staking token. We're going to have GoGoPool, mini pool, subsidize the cost. Like this solves a core problem for builders and that economic model of Avalanche, which was, for anyone listening that doesn't know, previously it was like 2,000 AVAX most paid upfront by each value node of the L1. Avalanche E upgrade happened, a lot of adjustments, economic model changes to a 1.33 AVAX pay-as-you-go fee. So now instead of 2,000 AVAX upfront, now it's a pay-as-you-go fee, which is actually pretty fucking great. So what we've been working on is, okay, now we need to create this similarly, how to create a design for a hyper-financialization layer that sits on top of all this really, really hard nitty-gritty infrastructure. Where we've been so far, again, as the story goes, is Beam was our first proof case of, okay, this shit can be really, really, really profitable when you do it right. And then the second, like it gives a scope of economic opportunity. Cocknet is the second use case where there's so much, Jared, we still need to put out a fucking blog post to talk about like the actual war room of what it takes to onboard 1,300 validator nodes and then how all that got productized. So that now it's like the next person that comes along, it's like click a button and dump your tokens into one wallet that gets to get distributed.
I like Jared's face here. It's like the face of someone who went through some serious pain.
Dude, he was on the front lines. Like actually in our retro, I think Jared tied for the most shoutouts of like ballers on the team. Yeah, it was just yeah. I mean, it's tough shit. So now that the infra is there, now I'm pretty focused on continuing to reduce the cost of this infrastructure. I think it's got to get to the point where like running a validator node is $5 a month, and it still participates in consensus to create a healthy network. But now we're rotating everything into the next design of, okay, now how do you create a funding transition layer on top of this, so that now not only have we proven the economic consequence of launching an L1, the infrastructure is now accessible, and then thirdly, now it just needs to be profitable pretty immediately to launch an L1. And self-reinforcing as well, because one unique advantage Avalanche has over all other architectures, that they've done a really good job with the warp messaging primitive. So now you're looking at a world where you can create multiple hub and spoke models, where you have got some hub, which C-Chain is going to be the first hub, and then there needs to be a DeFi activity happening on C-Chain that reinforces the health and the economic activity happening across all these other different L1s. And so we're pretty knee deep in the design phase on this hyper-financialization layer. And there's, I'm pretty fucking pumped. It's by far the most ambitious thing I've ever done in my life professionally. Like this is gonna, if it works, man, for fucking AVAX top 3, I'm just gonna stay there. Like we're gonna stay, and then it's gonna eventually flip with your AVAX top 2, like over the next 3 to 4 years. Like that, I think that's where we're going.
I think I heard recently that the C-Chain, after a couple of recent upgrades, became the most performant EVM chain, which is really interesting just because, it makes it the original intention of C-Chain. It's like a super seamless transition. If you're an Ethereum user or whatever, you bridge your assets over, you can use DeFi on Ethereum like that, And now another recent upgrade, or I guess, I don't know if it's really an upgrade, but I guess a promotion that's really interesting to see is they, They are covering the cost of gas fees for core users on C-Chain, which now means that you can switch over to C-Chain, you can use it super easily, it's super quick, and actually, if you're using DeFi or doing, whatever else you're doing on the hub chain, if you're using core, now you've got a certain amount of your gas fees, your transactions are paid for. You're essentially, functioning at zero gas cost. I think that is going to make the financial hub of the Avalanche ecosystem a lot more attractive now that, you can essentially send what are basically instant transactions for no cost. And now you have access to this big interconnected layer of L1s that are popping up all over the place.
I think so too. And I think all these L1 launches are going to be incredibly exciting. You're going to see a healthy, liquid, happy C chain. And you're going to see L1 issuances happen on the C chain. And you'll see their tokens get traded on the C chain. And then you're going to see all sorts of interesting Tesseract powered UXs to be able to onboard your assets and play on these different L1s and, farm points, yield season, etc. And then as the best, I think you'll also see then the best L1s, the most healthy kind of in terms of economic activity, they're going to start interacting with each other. And then you're going to start seeing them cross-pollinate their different communities. So they have one big network that keeps growing. And then now I think that's really the magic of this architecture or this approach, where again, my vision is to convert at least half of the Web2 tech startups that are popping up. There are these AI-enabled tech startups, have them use a blockchain as their financial backend. Like, this is going to be the greatest onboarding event in the history of crypto, as each builder builds out their own normie customer base, and they just keep adding these people to this network, this L1 network that's being built out. Why? Because it's actually literally profitable for them to do so. And they get to tap into issue a token to incentivize the existing crypto native user base to come check out their app, come check out their financial backend, their L1. And they start building a capital market around it. And then that's capital market that they're building gets joined into capital markets that already exist in crypto. And that's when you start seeing this massive network effect, which is a total snowball effect, where as it keeps growing bigger, it's going to grow bigger much more rapidly.
You're talking my book. I love it. It's great. We poked you for alpha a few times, but you played it very defensive. Didn't really leak any alpha, which I'm kind of upset about here, Stephen. Sorry about that. Okay. Are you going to be at the Avalanche Summit in May? Are you coming? It sounds like you're going to be doing quite a bit of traveling for networking and stuff. Are you going to be in London in May?
Yeah, I'm planning on it.
Okay, nice. Excellent. Have you been keeping up with BJJ, or what's the deal there?
No, I haven't. I've pivoted to go on tennis.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Then we need to do a rematch of you and JF at London, because I don't know. That sounds like you have a bit of a weight advantage over JF, but if you've been out of practice, yeah.
Have you been doing it? Have you been keeping up, JF?
No.
So be a better.
Then I'll be able to rerun. Yeah, like I can just sprawl on you and stay on top of you and try to walrus you. I was like, I've also gotten heavier since last time you saw me with a lot more muscle. So I think last time you saw me, I was 193 or so. Now I'm sitting at 205 and squatting 3 plates for reps. So
whoa.
We would, let's see. Let's see.
All right,
Bill's
interesting.
been training. I thought you were going to insert yourself in that thing, because Bill's been at the gym. I won't reveal the specific gym, but he's been at a very good gym quite regularly. I often call Bill, and he's too busy to talk to me because he's going to jiu-jitsu. So it's actually been
frustrating. Really? So you're okay.
I did my first competition in November, Stephen. It was awesome. It was definitely white belt jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I went 2-1. I won the first 2 matches, lost the third one.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about walrusing people or whatever. I mean, it was smothered jiu-jitsu, not pretty, but it was really fun. So we need to run it back in London. That would be great.
Sure. Do any of you guys play paddle?
What is it?
Paddle? No.
What's that?
It's a mixture of squash and tennis. So
we're talking about jiu-jitsu here, Stephen. We're not getting into racket sports. I don't know why you're squatting 3 plates if you're playing paddle. What are you doing?
We're setting out. Question. That is a fair question. Resilience. That's the narrative I've got right now on it. The heavier you squat, better you deadlift, just the more resilient you are to weird injuries. You can spend more.
This is true.
Jump higher.
This is true.
And sprint better. So that's why I've been looking at. But yeah, no, we're gonna do a paddle event in London.
Okay, all right. I will not be joining you for that one. But
come for the happy hour. Come for the happy hour.
Okay, I'll be there.
We're gonna play, but we're gonna have little drinks and stuff. So it'll be fun.
Got it. Okay. Cool. Well, listen, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us. I know this was a very Avalanche heavy and L1 heavy episode, but I think it is a unique time in kind of just crypto and Avalanche history, and I think we're poised very well for launching a ton of L1s, and we're seeing it not play out well in other areas of crypto. So hopefully our vision for the future is kind of correct. Hopefully we kind of move in that direction.
Or do I have time to ask one more question, one more section?
Oh, dude, ask a question. Yeah.
So I think you guys probably look at the markets more than I do, especially outside of the Avalanche market. Like I really don't keep that much up with the different metas that are happening. I mean, I do my professional due diligence, right? Just to because I'm in the crypto game, but I'm not fucking playing in the stuff. So what are you seeing in the markets? What trends are you seeing right now? Because to me, it seems like it's Solana's had a crash out, but it's still sustaining because it's like an economic juggernaut. It seems like the L2 hallucination is coming to a close, and people are starting to realize that. And it sort of seems like people are hating on Trump because he keeps saying the word tariffs, and the market can't really price that in right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there, but let's set aside the macro stuff because that's a big, basically people's opinion on what's going to happen with Trump and macro is really usually just a Rorschach test of how they feel about Trump. So let's put that aside for a second. Let's just assume that macro is not going to be absolutely terrible. I think it's a fairly reasonable assumption to make. In crypto, the vibes, it's like outside of Avalanche, crypto, the vibes are terrible because Bitcoin has done.
The vibes are terrible.
Because meme coins did really well going into the end of the year, right? And then with the AI, with the AI meta that you talked about, but now everything has basically come crashing down. I mean, basically it flipped when Trump's team launched a Melania coin, and everyone was like, "Oh, these guys are going to launch a coin for every person in the Trump family," and everything came crashing down. Not just Melania, but Trump and all the AI meme coins. Everything just came crashing down, and it really hasn't come back. Some things are starting to show some signs of activity now, but it's still, if you look at all the major breakouts from last year, everything is down significantly from all-time highs. You talked about Solana. Solana's in a tough spot because they were basically having a ton of the economic activity from meme coins, and meme coins have died. But dude, don't bet against Solana. That community is so strong. They came back so strong after FTX, so they'll figure out the next move and they'll keep going. So the vibes are terrible, man. We're waiting for regulatory clarity and ETH especially, man. They got the ETF approval, and where is ETH right now? What are we sitting at? 2,000. I mean, it's just brutal. Everyone who's been holding ETH has been underperformed almost everything in the last cycle. So yeah, vibes are terrible. It's pretty bad out there.
All the stablecoin yields have been compressing for sort of week after week for about 3 months now. And we think we're sort of probably at the bottom of that. It's hard to go much lower. Avant's been outperforming all the yields in the market because we have sort of some product advantages over our competitors, but generally we have a really good pulse on all the different yields on different chains, and it just keeps going down.
And how are the private markets? So I mean, I know you do some angeling, but how are the private VC markets right now?
Well, people are still trying to raise money. Valuations have come down a bit, but the issue is that you're not seeing many launches of things outside of infrastructure that are making money. Infrastructure still, for some reason, someone launches a new chain and the valuations are decent, maybe not great, but it's okay. Everything else, apps, are just either not launching products, not getting the token off the ground, or even if they launch the token, it's just straight down. So, I think people are waiting for, a bunch of people, you guys, myself, tons of people out there in crypto invested in a ton of projects over the last 3 years. And we're kind of waiting for the alt season to happen so that we can, hopefully end in the green on some of these investments. And it just hasn't happened for a lot of projects. So because I think people are waiting for some of these, a ton of projects to go live, we're a bit hesitant to invest in yet more, protocols. It's kind of the vibes I get.
Markets, there are some real catalysts, right? Initially, I guess, some of the stuff, the initial, BTC and Ethereum just went up because it's a new form of money. It's exciting. And then we think, the government is printing a bunch of money. That's a huge catalyst. It's a real catalyst. And we think, we're going to get DeFi and actual adoption that never comes. So I don't know. I mean, to me, the real next catalyst has to be actual adoption. All this other stuff is just sort of getting played out. I think crypto investors are starting to learn that it's mostly bullshit. After meme coin, there's been meme coin season rebranded through different memes like many times. And I think we're getting to that point where like now everyone knows it's a meme. And it's like, can I get on first and, not get off last? And it's sort of just like this game roller coaster up and down. But that's, I think, going to draw less and less interest. It's definitely, there's, people like casino. There's going to be some casino plays for sure. But I think even the sort of like dumb money is going to get smarter. And you're going to need to get a real catalyst again to get the markets back up. So I'm not surprised that like the altcoin season isn't coming and things are not pumping, and like you need to actually get like some real reason to get into this. And I think what we're talking about, that's why I'm excited about GoGoPool, because if we're talking about like, hey, instead of maybe listing on a stock market, doing a public offering or raising money, through sort of like traditional means, maybe companies are going to come to the blockchain and launch an L1 and do that through their L1 and make that their financial sort of center and banking center. And, you can list your company and you can now get clients and do stuff and you can track your cap table. Like just that basic sort of use case is like so exciting, right? To me, that's the next obvious catalyst. I don't know how long it takes. It's very Steven dependent and it's also Avalanche dependent. When will the tech be ready so people can just press a button and like launch the L1 and it's fully decentralized and so on. But I feel like we keep getting closer and I feel like everyone is sleeping on this thing. But that's the real thesis that I can't wait to see play out. Real adoption.
Well, let's not forget
We've been talking about it for half a decade.
Everybody was betting on, the strategic reserve to help Bitcoin continue to lift the markets, skyward. And I think people kind of got rugged on that because it turned out that they weren't actually going to buy anything. It was just like, whatever we have now, we're just going to keep it instead of selling it, which was kind of an obvious decision to make after a long time. But
it's a major step forward, right? Like I think even that like Bitcoin thesis is sort of like to me doing well, but it's clear that it's not going to take 2 years or 1 year. It's going to take a while for this to actually play out, that this becomes part of the financial system, if it does. But I think it's pretty bullish that governments are actually recognizing it. This is sort of beyond my initial expectations, because I do think that Bitcoin is sort of not the greatest tech, and that's maybe something that's going to hurt it over time. So let's see how that thesis plays out. But I thought that was pretty bullish, just the fact that this is kind of happening. But the market, I guess, wants way more. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they wanted to lift it up. I mean, Bitcoin still leads, right? Everything's going to move based on the movement of Bitcoin. If it's going down, people aren't going to be super excited to start getting into a ton of new things if Bitcoin's going from 100 to, 85 like it is, right? But 86, 87 right now. And realistically, these moves take a really long time and Bitcoin could probably still fall like another 10, 15, 20K before it starts to, rear its head upward again. And it's largely dependent on that for the most part.
So, oh, good.
Listen, I think it's a good part to wrap it up. Like basically, I think Avalanche is focused on the right things. If blockchain is going to actually see meaningful, significant adoption, we're positioned in the right way to be able to capture it. So hopefully that's how it plays out.
Yeah, I was going to say, Bill, can you close us out with a Bitcoin price target for 2025?
Bitcoin for 2025, 300,000, because another country, not the United States, is going to develop a Bitcoin strategic reserve and actually buy things. Look, in the long term, betting against Bitcoin is basically betting that countries are not going to print money, which is the dumbest fucking bet anyone could ever make, right? So long term, Bitcoin is going to be fine. Hopefully when it goes up, it drags all of our shit coins along with it. That's basically what I'm betting the next few years on. There we go.
That's my take. Yeah. Everyone's going to devalue their currencies while they print money to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, there we go.
I like it.
Okay, thank you guys for joining.
We've learned that Bill holds Bitcoin, ETH, and AVAX in some cock.
I don't hold any ETH.
Yeah, really? But you had such an ETH goal earlier. You're like,
actually, I do know. I'm sorry.
You care about ETH. They do want this world computer.
I take it. I do hold some ETH. I hold about 12 ETH. Yeah, that's it.
I gotta get such these things.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. Thanks, Steve, for joining us. It was great chatting with you. We'll see you in May at some paddle. And anyone that's going to Avalanche Summit, please reach out, say hi. We'd love to see you guys there, and chat again next week. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.